evening, everybody, and welcome to the 55th episode of Pop Go the Writers. Yes, we've been doing it that freaking long now. Can you believe that?
It's almost as old as me. I'm 56.
Yeah, I'm going to be 52 at the end of the month, so it's not that much older than me at this point. All right, tonight we are, as you can probably tell by my friend here on the microphone, we're going to be talking about the debut episode of Moon Knight, which popped up on Disney Plus on the 30th. But joining us tonight, you'll notice no Paul. Paul is off playing Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know what his character is, but I have a feeling it's like a gnome rogue or something like that. I could just
priorities.
Yeah,
priorities.
Actually, knowing Paul, he's probably playing a hunter that he's scaled after either Robin Hood or he's got a fighter made like Captain America, because those are his two go-tos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but joining us as he has, we've been honored to have him the start of all of our Marvel series. Jim Beard is with us tonight. So thank you for joining us, Jim.
Thanks. I always look forward to this. That's the only reason I look forward to the Marvel shows is because I know I get to be on your show.
Well, I've got two things I want to talk about before we jump into Moon Knight.
Okay.
First has to be the debut of Morbius, which is not getting the best word of mouth.
Putting it mildly.
Yeah, the critical score on like Rotten Tomatoes is in the teens.
Phew.
Yeah, last I saw was 16, and I had a feeling it was going to be going down.
Wow. How could it be that bad? You know, that's what I'm saying.
Well, from what I'm understanding, and I don't know how valid this is, but they filmed the movie, and then something came up, and they decided to cut out a lot of the ties they had to like the MCU and to Spider-Man and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
And in doing so, now they may have been done when it was going to be in a different time, because all these movies have moved around so much.
Sure.
I mean, originally Doctor Strange was supposed to come out before Spider-Man.
Right.
So it could be that's the reason, or it could be that Marvel went, no, you're connecting too much. I don't know what the reason is, but from what I understand, it gets chopped up like crazy.
What a shame. What a shame. I know, a lot of people were really looking forward to that one. And what a shame.
Yeah. Though I have been told that Matt Smith is absolutely brilliant in it.
Okay.
That he's well worth watching it.
Who does he play? Does he play a comic book character or?
Yeah, he plays, is it Hunger?
Okay.
He plays basically a vampire that Morbius creates.
Okay.
But they twist him in the film to be somebody Morbius grew up with, and with the same ailment that Morbius had.
Okay.
So
yeah, I'm not familiar with that character at all. I've never followed Morbius that much. I mean, I know about him, and I saw earlier appearances, but haven't really followed him.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him in the early appearances. I've seen him in like the Midnight Suns comics, stuff like that. But he's never been that high on my list either.
Yeah.
But it looked like it could have been like a good Marvel horror movie. And from what I understand, they even back off from that. They really don't lean into the horror aspect either. So
how weird. And he doesn't have the red and blue costume, probably, right?
No, doesn't have a big V-neck shirt or. I think I'm gonna let that one slip and wait for it on the streaming service or on DVD or something.
Yeah. It sounds like one of those. What a real shame. That's a real shame.
Yeah. And then the second thing I want to bring up, and I'm hoping that your expertise may actually help out on this. You used to work at Marvel.com, correct?
17 years of writing for Marvel.com every week. Yep.
Okay. This came up this weekend. A couple of the different sites were reporting that Marvel has made the Daredevil series canon because if you go out to marvel.com, there is the listing for Daredevil, and they have both the comic version and the TV version. And then there's the on-screen recap, and it has everything that happens in the three seasons.
Yeah.
But then they had a paragraph at the end that talked about him, Matt Murdock, showing up and becoming the lawyer for Peter Parker and catching the brick. So there was a paragraph that basically recapped his role in Spider-Man No Way Home.
Very interesting.
So a lot of sites were like, oh, well, that makes it canon. That has to be canon now because they're tying all that together.
Yeah.
But yesterday, you go back out there today, that paragraph is now gone.
Nobody should have said anything. That's they got, oh no. Okay. Here would be my guess. My guess is that the .com might have went ahead and did that, and then somebody at Marvel Studios got wind of it and said, no, we don't want that in there. We always had to be very careful with things that we said, and I remember many times of being told not to draw any connections between what's in the movie and TV and what's in the comic books. I was, every once in a while I got to write an article about the shows. I think I did a Netflix Daredevil article, and I know I did one with the Punisher too, but that would be my guess, is that the right hand wasn't watching the left hand, and the right hand found out and slapped the left hand. But boy, I mean, my editors were always very careful about, making sure that we didn't do the things that we weren't supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it just seems like, I mean, I think how you described it sounds exactly like, Bobby, what happened, where they were being diligent and updated it, and then somebody over at Marvel went, oh, wait, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
And they probably didn't notice it until the websites started mentioning it.
I mean, it can be a minefield, there were so many other things that I always had to be very, very careful about. The way you referred to female characters, they could never ever be described as a girlfriend or really as any sort of romantic interest. That was a no-no, because that's not what women are there for. That sort of, even if it was like that right there in the comic book that they were a girlfriend character, that's the, I could hold up the comic book and show it. Nope. You never ever refer to them as that. And then, like I said, the whole thing about don't connect in with the movie and TV stuff. I interviewed Stan Lee once on the phone, and I had to submit the questions first for that I was going to ask him, and it was about a comic book story that he was writing. And during the conversation, it just became very freewheeling, and he was being so nice, and we were just chatting. And I don't know, he might have said something about it was a Thor comic book story. I think he said something about the Thor movie, and I said something back or whatever, and it was being recorded. And I remember that when I handed in my recording to get transcribed, I got my hands slapped for even saying anything about the movies whatsoever, because I worked for Marvel.com and the comic books, not the movies.
Yeah.
And that was one little damper on my enthusiasm of I'm talking to Stan Lee. Funny business.
Did that change any when all the shuffling took place and then Kevin Feige basically became kind of the overseer of all Marvel?
I think that wasn't, I don't think that had gone on yet. No, there wasn't really any effect, that I had, and I think that might even have happened after I was gone. The last like couple of years, I was sort of off in my own little corner of what I was doing, and I was doing pretty deep, like historical dives. They knew, since I was the oldest freelancer that they had, anytime that they wanted anything that was a deep historical dive, they handed it to me, because nobody else really was interested in doing anything like that. So I'm not really sure. It'd be interesting to hear how things are there now. It's kind of, people have changed, and I'm not even sure who's in charge of the .com anymore.
Man, the deep historical dives are some of the most fun things that I get to do for like this, for
Yeah.
like the Dan Wickline show.
Yeah.
I'll do an entire episode on the history of a character,
Yep.
and I'll do 3,000, 4,000 words just covering the basic history, and then
Yep.
Doing that as a script, and that's a lot of fun. Or
I agree. I mean, I always gravitated towards those, and then and then I got stuck in it.
Yeah.
They were like, "Oh, well, he's good at that, and he likes to do that, so just give him all that stuff."
Oh yeah, I'd be eating that stuff up. I mean, but then I also do those psychology ones too. I've done, the psychology of Lex Luthor and the psychology of the Riddler.
Yeah.
And those take, I mean, they're a long time to do.
Sure.
Because I'm actually looking into the psychoses and looking into the actual medical side of it. And
they had a regular string of articles at Marvel.com doing that exact same thing, but with Marvel characters. And one of my fellow freelancers, and I'm trying to think of who that was now, he did all of those, because I think it was in his own background, in his own side profession or whatever. And again, that was fun. They would just take a character that was of interest at that moment, and then just dig into it. Was called Psych Report. That was the name of the column, Psych Report. Fun stuff. Cool.
I'm sure the Moon Knight Psych Report was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and speaking of speaking of crazy people.
That was a nice segue, folks. We almost seem professional at this.
Yeah, that was incredible. I don't think I could ever top that.
So, all right. So, Moon Knight dropped. Let's first what were your expectations going into it?
Much like Morbius, I could never be mistaken for a Moon Knight fan. And it's not to say I don't like the character. It's just I've never, ever followed it. I don't think I've ever bought a Moon Knight series. And most of what I've read would be him in other books, But now, that said, and working at Marvel.com, I've touched upon the character many times and had to look into it and research different things. We did how many different things? I think I was the one that wrote his official biography page for Marvel.com. I did hundreds of characters of doing that. My expectations were that we were going to touch upon finally the darker corners of the Marvel universe. It was almost like I felt like maybe we're finally going to get to the Marvel monsters. This is the path to do it. I was really excited when I heard that Oscar Isaac was hired for the part. I thought that was great. Sure. And I was really intrigued when we were told that it wasn't really going to be very strongly connected to the MCU. So, I said, bring it on. I liked the idea that we were going to be in London, because London's barely been touched upon in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Mostly Eternals.
Yeah.
And, I went into it pretty open-minded. It was almost, to me, it was almost like it was an experiment that since I wasn't, or I'm not a Moon Knight fan necessarily, that they had to kind of teach me. They had to grab me as somebody who didn't really know a whole lot about Moon Knight, and they did. I'm really happy to say that I really enjoyed it.
Now I came in. This is going to be an interesting dichotomy here because I came in a big Moon Knight fan. I got first introduced when they reprinted the Moon Knight stories from the Hulk magazine. They
Oh
did a
wow!
three miniseries set of these. They were oversized books. They were all done on Baxter paper. It was Doug Munch and Bill Sienkiewicz,
Yep.
and it was all about Bushman and his brother, and it was just this really intense, very adult comic. And I was in my teens, and I'm getting these books and just eating it up because
it was probably a mind blower, I would imagine.
it was really interesting for me, and I really got into the character. But also coming into the show, seeing all the hype for it got me a little frustrated because there's this shorthand that a lot of people use where they're like, "Oh, Moon Knight, that's Marvel's Batman."
Yeah,
and they say that like crazy. And I've actually done like a video on it. It's like, stop saying that because he's not. If he's similar to anybody, it's the Shadow.
I will go ahead and agree with that. Yeah, being a big Pulp fan and Shadow fan, yeah, that's. I mean, at the very most basic level, when he first began as a character, there was a Batman element in there. I'm laughing because Stephen Grant was the sort of Bruce Wayne stand-in. If you really need to draw that comparison. But I mean, that's my God, that's decades ago now. The character has gone so far.
Well, see, but he's also the Lamont Cranston stand-in.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Where Mark Spector is Keith Allard, or is it Ken Allard? Ken Allard. Ken Allard. And then the Jake Lockley character is actually is an actual character in the shadow of the cab driver.
Right, Shrevey.
So it's almost like Doug Minch went, okay, we're gonna, we need a character for Werewolf by Night, so we'll do this Batman-looking character. And then when they went, well, we actually like it, we need an origin story. He went, well, I can't give him Batman's origin, so I'll give him the Shadow's origin instead.
Right. Yeah. Well, right. Something happens to him overseas, right? Sort of a little bit of a mystic, thing going on. There really isn't a whole lot of mysticism in the actual original Pulp character that kind of got grafted on, with the radio show and all of that. But yeah, I'm really liking that what you're saying there. That's, much more. But I mean, that's comic book fans and pop culture fans. You're going to knee jerk something like that, and I got a kick out of the moment in time when Moon Knight was supposedly outselling Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. All right. Lost my train of thought. I seem to be lagging a little bit. I'm trying to find out if my nephew is using up all the bandwidth, but he says no. So.
Oh, okay. Well, that's important.
So yeah, I come into this a fan of Moon Knight, also a fan of Egyptian mythology.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I'll agree with that aspect too.
So though they get into some characters in this that I know of Horus and Ra and Anubis, and I think I know the big names, and it's kind of like with the Asgardians. A lot of people know Loki and Thor, but when you start getting into Balder and
right.
Indun and stuff like that, so I think Khonshu and Amit are probably the Balder Indun level of gods.
I remember being surprised when I first found out that Khonshu is actually not a comic book creation and actually from Egyptian mythology. You'd almost think that they might have invented, him for that, but it's not. As far as Moon Knight goes, I knew the basic setup for it, but really, like I didn't know the character of Harrow at all. Now I'm assuming that he like Moon Knight is an avatar for Amit.
If you're looking at his equivalency in the comic, Arthur Harrow it's more like they borrowed the name. The character
Oh,
shows up in one issue. I think it's number 2 of the Mark Spector run. I think it's the Fist of Khonshu run. So
okay.
like the second or third volume.
Yeah.
And in it, he is a scientist who has an affliction, so he's always in pain. So he does these experiments on pain and he used to work for the Nazis, and he's now
Okay.
there's now a corporation funding his experiments. He's a one and done villain. He's
Okay.
one issue and done. But
So that's where the thing with the glass and the shoes comes from.
well, let's get back to that.
Okay. Sorry.
Where I think he's an amalgamation, though, of the Arthur Harrow character and a more recent villain known only as the Sun King,
Okay.
which was actually from when Jason Burroughs was doing the art in the book. I think Jeff Lemire was writing it, and he was an avatar for I want to say Ra, but I think they're kind of borrowing it. And Amit was one of the characters in that series,
Okay.
so I think they're kind of amalgamating some of that stuff into this. So yeah, I do think you're right. I do think that this Arthur Harrow is an avatar for Amit, just
Okay.
as Mark is the avatar for Khonshu.
Okay. I mean, that would make sense to me to do that, especially in a filmed production like this, and I almost was going to say dumbing it down, but that's not really what I mean. It's kind of streamlining it. If you're going to have a character, your main character is an avatar of a deity,
Yeah.
then it almost makes sense to have his his opposite number be the the same sort of thing. So I'm assuming that in the comic books, Moon Knight doesn't really have much of a rogues gallery. Does he have recurring?
He's got a couple. He's got Bushman. Bushman is the mercenary that he worked for in the beginning and ended up killing him.
Okay.
And yeah, there was also his brother Randall, who ends up becoming a homicidal maniac.
Whose brother?
Mark's brother Randall.
Oh, okay. Now I thought you meant Bushman's brother. Okay,
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
There was a character called the Midnight Man, who is supposed to appear in the series. Who's an art thief. And then there's a couple other over the years, but it was a lot of times he was going up against military people. It was more like that. He didn't get a lot of colorful costumed heroes, or he dealt a lot with the avatars of the different gods.
Okay. So there wasn't a whole lot for Marvel Studios to work
and Dracula.
with. And what?
Dracula.
Oh, well, wow. I've been waiting for the Marvel Dracula to show up in the Marvel cinema.
Yeah, Moon Knight versus Dracula. There's,
Wow.
you've seen that clip from a page that has Moon Knight coming down the stairs going, Dracula, where are you? I want my goddamn money. That is a real comic.
Okay. The last major thing I saw of Moon Knight was the recent Avengers arc, where Moon Knight was the villain in that one. Where he took all of their powers or whatever that was going on in that.
Oh no, that was actually he was crazy, he's crazy anyway. But he started believing that they were part of him. So like Captain America, Wolverine, and Spider-Man all became these personas inside his head.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. The most recent series, I've actually got a couple of them here. They launched a new #1 recently, written by Jed Jed McKay.
Hmm.
Yeah, Jed
Not
McKay's writing
really
it,
familiar with
and
that.
this is one of the covers.
Wow.
I just got this was one of the variant covers, and then this is the Steve McNiven cover. McNiven's doing all the regular covers. At least he did in the beginning. I don't know where it's at now, but
And that's the current series.
yeah, that's the current series,
Okay.
and it also includes a couple years ago they introduced a new persona for him called Mr. Knight.
Right.
As him
Yeah,
in the
and that was really new to me. I think I only fairly recently found out, about that. So that when did it actually occur in the comics that that instead of just being identities that he had, that they became personalities?
It was slowly over time they started doing that.
Okay.
They started touching upon it in the regular series runs, but they did it subtly, where he would start getting deeper and deeper into these aliases that he had. So when he was Stephen Grant, he would do things and not remember them doing the other ones.
Okay, that was like my next question is what they're doing in this Disney Plus series. I was thinking was sort of a new way of looking at his uh, uh, disorder, but now you're telling me that there is roots in the comics where one of his alters it doesn't doesn't really know that the other ones exist, and he's doing okay, very
Yeah.
interesting. All right.
Oh, they got in some really weird stuff. Within the last 20, 30 years, they've really been changing it. But in the last, since like 2000, there was a run by Jeff Lemire,
Mm-hmm.
and I think Declan Shalvey was part of it, and then Jason Burrows. And that's where Mr. Knight became part of it. At one point, we find out that Marlene had left him,
Mm-hmm.
only to discover that she left Mark Spector and went off and had a life and a kid with Jake Lockley, another one of his personas.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
She didn't leave him, but she left him.
Yeah.
So
So who's Layla then?
now, see, they haven't said who she is. My guess is that they've
But
changed.
there's no Layla in the comics, right?
No, I mean, there's a stray character, it might be, but it's so minor of a character. I think what they did is they've taken Marlene and changed her name to make her more of an Egyptian character.
Okay. All right.
So I think Marlene is now Layla.
Okay. I watch the Screen Crush Easter egg videos for all the Disney Plus shows, and that's what they were supposing also. That they said, there's not really like a Layla, but it seems to be maybe that Marlene is but they wanted the name Layla for. I thought that was really great when he's going through the phone and it's Layla, and then it's Duchamp, and then Layla, and I thought, oh, okay, so I guess we're gonna get Frenchie at some point, right?
Yeah, that's one of the two. Well, at least Easter eggs if we don't get them, but if we do, we get. Then the other one was Crawley, the street guy that always got him information.
Oh, see, I guess I'm not up. I'm not up enough on that to know that one. No.
When he got his own series, and so one of the people when he was the cabbie, Jake Lockley, Crawley was one of his informants who was
okay.
he acted British. He put on these airs. He always had a tea bag, so he would get like a cup of water from the restaurant and just use the same tea bag over and over. He was a homeless guy, but who would get information.
Yeah.
The street mime that he goes and talks to in the episode.
Yeah. The living statue guy. Yeah.
They say that's Crawley.
Okay, very interesting. It took me a while to realize what the hell was going on with that. It's like that's a real guy. That's not like a statue. Like like okay, is he gonna move then at some point? Well, what in the comic books? what was the need for the Mr. Knight persona?
Mr. Knight is more of the detective side.
Okay.
And he interfaces with the police. So
Okay.
he doesn't do the bare knuckle brawling that Moon Knight does.
Yeah.
He can fight, but he's more of the liaison with the police and is more of like a more of a personable version of Moon Knight.
Yeah, sure, sure. He's more suave or sophisticated, or I can't wait to see how they fold that into this show,
Yeah.
this is only 6 episodes, am I right?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
But we've been doing that all last year.
Yeah,
Every time Marvel put out one of these shows, it's like, how are they going to wrap this up in just 2
Yeah.
more episodes?
Yeah.
And
don't we? I know we always do that.
Yeah.
I know I feel sorry for saying it.
But then we always add so much to it. Like,
Yeah.
oh, well, they've got it. Mephisto has to be coming in.
Well, he absolutely has to be in this series. I mean, we're finally going to get him, and I think I saw clues all throughout this. Hey, there's no MCU references whatsoever in this.
No, and there was some, but the director said that when they did the showing, they realized that they could pull them out and not affect the story at all, and that this could be like Iron Man was a complete jumping in point for somebody new.
Okay.
So they decided, okay, but I could easily see, like in the let me real quick put up the spoiler warning just in case.
Yeah, better do that.
Yeah, we are. So
okay.
In the museum where Harrow is judging Mark or Stephen,
yeah,
he says, "Well, had Amit been allowed, she could have stopped Hitler,
yes,
Pol Pot, and the Armenian genocide.
Yeah,
and easily they could have added Thanos or
right.
Sokovia, right? So I
held my breath and I'm like, okay, here it comes, and then he just goes on.
But yeah, according to the director, they had moments like that and removed them because they really thought the show stood enough on its own.
Okay.
That it didn't need those ties. There's still supposed to be like a cameo at some point near the end of the series of an Avenger or somebody that level.
Well, wouldn't it be interesting? And it really depends on when this is going on. If it was Cersei, where like in Eternals, what's the museum that she goes by?
Yeah, she works in which museum is she? Does she work in the Museum of Natural History?
See, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool if it was the same museum? But it's like, yeah, I know London's a big place, and there's probably more than one museum, like that there. But I thought that would be kind of a cool thing, since that is the only real other London thing that we've had so far.
That's true, but it could also be Kit Harington, the Black Knight character.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially as wow. All right. Yeah, you're right. Especially if this is another part of Midnight Suns, right?
Yeah. I think if it's anything, it's probably going to be Black Knight.
Oh, okay. I'm agog. I'm all a Twitter, so to speak.
That's
all
okay.
Right, I love it.
I came up with a Miss Marvel theory today that I really like too. Is that, and I'm totally going sidetrack here, but I got to share it with somebody.
Okay.
You see the trailers for Miss Marvel?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. You see where she's in like some kind of attic, opens up a box and finds could be a quantum band, a nega band, whatever they call it.
Yep.
My guess or theory, if they really want to tie it into Captain Marvel, is that her parents bought that house, and you know how sometimes you buy a house and there's things left in the attic?
Sure.
Previous owner?
Sure.
What if the previous owner of that house was Dr. Wendy Lawson, aka Marvel from the Captain Marvel movie, who dies, when they're attacked. She wouldn't have had time to clean out her house. So what if those are Captain Marvel's negabands? That would tie her solidly into the Captain Marvel franchise.
Yeah. I was talking with some friends last night, and we're a little bit off of Moon Knight, but this was another kind of a mind-blowing thing that they were. My friends were talking about the 10 rings in Shang-Chi, and that they felt that there could be a tie-in with whatever the bands are in Ms. Marvel, and that made me say, well, that's very interesting, because this is almost the equivalent of the Infinity Stones, except now we're heading into territory where it's going to be like space artifacts are going to be the next big thing. It was the Infinity Stones, and now we like, how many other cool space artifacts are there in the Marvel universe that
we also were just introduced to the Ebony Blade.
Yep.
Which is forged from an asteroid that landed on the Earth.
Yep.
So
you're right. Yep. Love it.
Yep. Getting lots of stuff now. All right, let's go back into Moon Knight. Let's talk about the opening. And you were talking about the broken glass. I loved the musical choice. The Bob Dylan song, Every Grain of Sand.
They're always very good at that, aren't they?
Yeah. And of course, this is from the era where Bob Dylan became a born-again Christian. And this is him talking about finding how the master's hand is everywhere, including every grain of sand. So to me, the drinking of the glass and then the breaking it and walking on it is the equivalent of the self-flagellation, or like where they beat themselves, or they wear like the hair suits, or what was it, the movie The Da Vinci Code, where the guy had that thing on his leg,
right?
So to me, that's what the broken glass was, is his way of showing his devotion.
Right. Do you feel that Harrow is very, very, very old, or is he, a normal human being, or of a normal age, like what he looks?
I'm thinking he's probably normal age, or maybe just a little older than he looks.
Okay.
Because it wouldn't surprise me if he had recently come across Amit.
Oh.
Because he's building up, we're seeing him build up this cult and I can't tell what country they were in. I was guessing like Amsterdam, or
it felt like Scandinavian potentially.
Yeah, I mean there was Alps up there, and
yeah.
So, and a lot of tulips. There were tulips in the background.
Right.
Yeah, so I get the feeling that maybe he's just starting to build it up. Plus, we get the impression with Stephen that maybe he's only been around a couple months too.
That's a really interesting question, because when I watched it, I said to myself, whose apartment is that? Or I think I started off with saying, has Mark been living in Stephen's apartment? I mean, there was the whole thing with the fish, that it looks like Mark or whoever went to the pet store. That was a very interesting question. So that's very interesting that maybe, but I mean, we'd have to know how long Stephen has had that job, I guess.
Yes.
And then usually you have to have paperwork. You have to be. I don't know how it is in England, but you have to have a social security number here to get a job. There's some very interesting questions that.
Yeah, but I was thinking this. The way it looks to me, and again, this is just theory, is that Mark created the Stephen persona as a safe house. Maybe from Amit or these other Egyptian gods, where they can't track him if he's a different persona rather than just hiding.
Oh.
And he got him the job. He asked the girl out. So I think Mark is being protective of Steven. A lot of times when it comes to dissociative identity disorder,
Yeah.
one of the personas is kind of is a safe place, like a
Right.
child, a place where you can block out everything.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it's a child, and Steven is childlike in a lot of his mannerisms.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I could see him creating it as a place to hide out, but also helping Steven, doing stuff like asking the girl he likes out.
Yeah.
And when they come back from wherever they were and the fish is dead, he's going to take the time to replace the fish because he doesn't want Steven to wake up and find the fish dead.
Yeah.
So
let me throw this one out there. Maybe this is crazy. I don't know. Do you feel there's any chance that they could really turn this thing right around in a big twist, and that Steven is the core person, and that Mark is a creation? Because you know what, you can turn that around, that if Steven is a meeker, milder person, and then he creates a stronger, vibrant personality who can ask women out and to do these other things. I mean, I don't know. I could just, they're at a point now where they don't have to stick much to the, I mean, they've earned a lot of cred with us, and I think about some of the more recent characters that they've gone off the rails somewhat. I'm just thinking of some, because it's going to hit a very sad point where Steven is going to realize that he is more or less not a real person, and he could potentially go away if Mark submerged him deep enough. I don't know. I'm thinking about when Khonshu says, "Oh, great, the idiot or whatever is in control again," and again, that could go either way.
The reason, and I see where you're coming from, and I could see them doing one way or the other, but they're putting out so many what would be red herrings, and Marvel hasn't been doing that. Most of the time we watch these shows, we look for the double flip. We look for the extra twist.
Yeah.
And they don't come.
Well.
So when I look at something like the fact that Steven is constantly calling his mother and leaving basically leaving messages.
Oh.
Never anybody there.
Yeah.
Or the fact that he puts the postcards up on the fish tank.
Yeah.
But at the same time, those postcards are the same ones that we see that are on sale in the gift shop at the museum.
Right. My Easter egg video pointed that out. Well, wait a minute. This is getting really mind-blowing. If that is Steven's mother, then Steven couldn't be a creation, right? I mean,
but he never actually speaks to anybody.
I know that's true. That's very true. He could be calling nobody then. It could just be,
or Mark might have set up a number for him to call.
Yeah.
And Mark probably set up everything. And Steven, being as old as he is, just accepted everything as it was. Because why would you if you just suddenly came into be, I mean, how would that work?
Yeah, right. I mean, right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like some kind of twist is coming, and I don't know,
I mean, we could find out that they do have the Jake Lockley persona, and he's the go-between in all of this.
Yeah. Good question. So you feel that we are going to get Jake Lockley at some point?
I think it's possible, but they've completely left it out so far. We've seen Mr. Knight, we've seen Moon Knight, we've seen Mark, we've seen Steven.
Mm-hmm.
Lockley has always been that other persona. He was way before Mr. Knight.
Right.
So it seems weird that they would drop that one.
Mm-hmm.
So unless they've got a plan for it later on,
Yeah.
But
is Moon Knight considered to be yet another personality, or is Moon Knight Mark in a mask?
Again, it's changed over the years. It used to just be Mark in a mask.
Yeah, right.
Where now, with the fact that Mr. Knight came along, they've kind of made Moon Knight this super aggressive persona, where Mr. Knight is the more Sherlock Holmes detective persona,
right,
and Mark is the mercenary persona, or the real one in the comics. But
is he? Is that it? Is still that Mark is the beginning?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Mark Spector was the first one.
Okay.
They've also changed it a bit in the comics, where they say that the DID came on after his association with Khonshu. Khonshu basically going into his head and becoming the Avatar caused the split personalities. So they may be doing that. That Khonshu, there were no split personalities until he became the Avatar, until he died and came back, and Khonshu's presence has caused the other ones to rise up.
Okay.
So that we don't know which way they're going to go on that. But then I had one other theory that I'm going to throw out there.
I'm ready for it.
All right,
lay it on me.
The balance between them it seemed like it works normally. Steven is in control until he goes to sleep. Then Mark takes over back and forth. And then suddenly it all goes awry when he wakes up in the little village with this. Well, my thought is maybe the scarab is the reason. When he has the scarab is when he suddenly becomes, switches back to Steven.
Right.
And then when he loses it inside the village, Mark comes in and takes everybody out. Then he takes it back and switches back to Steven. I'm wondering if the scarab has the ability to force him back into the Steven persona.
And why does Harrow want the scarab? I mean, it is a mystical object.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a myth scarab, and it's supposed to be the key to these gods are supposed to be trapped in like another dimension.
Yeah,
this pocket thing where they've been living, and they need a key to open it to bring them out. And I think the scarab is supposed to be the key.
Okay,
it's our MacGuffin for this series.
Right. So Khonshu is not actually physically appearing around there.
I think all that's in Mark Stevens' head. Yeah.
One of my most favorite shots in that first episode is when Steven is on the bus and he looks out and Khonshu's just standing on the street. But I know, but it's super creepy also in a way. I mean, it's real quick, but like just that incredibly weird, strange figure is just standing there on the London street, and he's watching him go by. I just really enjoyed that shot.
Yeah, and the fact that nobody else is turning around going, "What the hell is that?"
Right? Yeah, this big like bird skeleton man thing.
For me, the image that really stuck in my head was when he notices that Gus suddenly has two fins, and he goes, "What the fish?" And he's holding. Of all things to put the fish in, a blender.
I can see him go, just look around and just grab that, and it's like a scoop, and it's got a lid. How perfect is that?
But it's also got sharp blades on the bottom.
I know, yeah. There is that too, yeah.
Yeah.
I feared for the fish for a little while there.
So yeah, those are my two theories. Is that Steven is a safe haven for Mark, and that the scarab is somehow messing with the personas and forcing him, because later on, when he gets rid of it, it kind of goes back to normal.
Yeah.
There's no switching back and forth.
In this production, in this Marvel Studios film production, I could see where they might say we really don't need a Jake Lockley in this. They may say that's like they may not even really have seen the benefit, why it was created in the first place, and to get that across to people in only 6 episodes. Might be too much. Like in this and what we're getting, what would we need Jake Lockley for?
Well, in the comics, to me, Jake Lockley is the equivalent of like Matches Malone for Batman.
Okay.
He is the ability to go out and just blend in. He's the everyman, where Stephen Grant is the rich guy,
right?
The billionaire playboy.
Jake Lockley is the underworld connection.
He's the cab driver.
Yeah, but I mean, does he have connections to the underworld?
He talks to the street people.
Okay, because then that would really be a Matches Malone type of counterpart then.
Yeah, there's so many people out there going, "Who the hell is Matches Malone?"
Oh, come on now. Come on. Everybody knows Matches Malone. I love the way Matches Malone still is part of the Batman mythos. Like no matter what happens in the comics, they always somehow manage to bring back some kind of version of Matches Malone.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, that's so part of my childhood. It's not funny.
I don't see. This is one of the few series that I'm watching, and it's like, I think I understand some of the stuff they're doing setup wise.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit Fight Club meets Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know where they're going.
But isn't that fascinating? Look, there's you, dedicated Moon Knight fan from the beginning, whatever, and there's me where it's just like a kind of a peripheral thing, whatever. But we both enjoyed this first episode.
Mm-hmm.
We're both looking forward to seeing where it's going and what they can do. I mean, that's the beauty of these shows, and that's the challenge of these shows, is that they have to rope in the diehards, the casual fans, and then the people who have absolutely no idea anything at all. They just like these Marvel movies, and they're learning stuff as they go along. So I think that's really cool that someone like you and someone like me, and then everybody else can enjoy this in the same way.
I tried to get Lisa on tonight, and Lisa knows nothing about the comics.
Oh, that would have been perfect.
She's been reading she's been watching all the series and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, she keeps calling him Dark Moon. But she just got her degree in psychology. So she's looking at it from that point of view and the dissociative identity disorder.
Yeah.
And, she was fascinated from that point of view and how, again, she sees Stephen as, she agreed this the safe haven persona.
Mm-hmm.
That, like I said, is usually a childlike figure. But the Mark persona is the protector figure.
Yeah.
Which is another part of it. So, but she really liked the series and was like, when the hell's the next one? Why do I have to wait? I want another episode.
I have the benefit of, I do a regular podcast with a guy who's more than 10 years older than me, Fred. He's about 70 now, and he's the same way. He only read comics as a kid. He wasn't even really there. He was already older when the Marvel universe began, but he watches all of these, all the Disney Plus shows, so that we can talk about it on our podcast. But it's the same thing. He doesn't know most of this stuff, and he looks to me to explain it. When we started talking about Moon Knight, I had to say, no, I don't really know a whole lot. I'll try to help you, but it is really fascinating to 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 talk with people and seeing that they're enjoying it also when they don't have any basis for
Yeah.
any of it. A good production that should not matter. And I tell people that all the time. They one of the Marvel movies cannot fly on the amount of comic book readers there are in the United
Oh, yeah.
States. It needs millions and millions of people past that. They cannot make these movies just for the diehards, but somehow they're making it for everybody, and I don't understand how they're maintaining this balance. I try not to question it too much, but it's amazing. There hasn't really been a super dud,
No.
more than 10 years now.
No. I think about Kevin Feige, and there's a story from the Black Widow filming where they were filming the. You've seen Black Widow.
Yes, and I enjoy it very much.
When the whole family is back together at the farm, that we've met the pigs, all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Florence Pugh's Yelena is upset. She goes in the other room.
Yeah.
And Alexei goes in there.
Yeah.
And tries to talk to her. And when he doesn't get through with his he starts singing to her.
Yeah.
The song, her favorite song. Yeah. And we know it's her favorite song because we saw it in the beginning.
Right.
That was not in the script.
Oh, but him singing, you mean?
None of that.
Okay.
In the beginning. On the day they were filming that scene on the farm, David Harbour had the idea that he should sing a song to her to try to connect. And told the directors, I want to sing something like American Pie.
Yeah.
I think to try to connect. And they went, you want to do, but then they got a hold of the producers and they're like, he wants to do this. So the producer called Kevin Feige, who was on a different film set, and said, okay, David Harbour wants to sing to Florence.
Yeah.
In the scene. And Kevin Feige said, how are we doing on time? Are we making the day?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, we're good. We're going to make the day. All right, shoot it. Let's see what it is. They get it. They see the moment and how they connect and how Harbour does it as Alexei. And they go, that's perfect. We'll add the music to the car chase in the beginning to set it up. So all of that is because now you've got this giant major studio that one of the actors has an idea.
Yeah.
And it bounces all the way up to Kevin Feige, and he's like, let's see it. And it's all that kind of stuff. The shawarma scene in the Avengers.
Yeah. Good example.
It's like, yeah. They come up, I mean, the shawarma scene was filmed the night of the premiere.
Right. Yeah. I read about that in that the history or the what's it called? The story. I'm looking over it, the story of Marvel Studios. I was struck by that too, that how many different times they don't just hire the actors, I mean, they become partners with them, and like, this is your character, and figuring out, things and places to go. It really is a wonderful system.
Right. Well, the broken glass in the shoe thing was Ethan Hawke's idea.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah. He said that in an interview I read recently, he said that he went to the directors and said, look, every good villain in a comic book has that splash page moment, that moment where you realize what this person's really capable of, where they're, that they're not just an average person. There's something about them. And he said, what is Arthur Harrow's splash page moment? And they turned around and said, what do you think it should be? And that's when he went off and he was thinking about devout religious people and came up with the idea of the broken glass. And that was actually going to be, that scene was basically going to be in the second episode or something. And then when they saw it, they went, no, let's start with that.
That's the opening.
Yeah,
great. That made me cringe
It made everybody.
Yeah,
I don't know
like
anybody.
what a way to start by making me cringe.
Oh
Ugh.
yeah, oh, yeah. Every single person I know went, "Yee, ah, why? Why do you hate yourself?" So, um, the thing that stands out for me here is you've got F. Murray Abrams doing the voice of Khonshu.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Wow, what a coup
yeah.
for them, you know.
And in the episode, you've got May Kalmaway doing the voice of Layla on the phone.
Hmm.
You've got Donna talking to him in a couple scenes. Other than that, nobody has any real screen time except Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke.
Yeah.
This is basically a two-man show,
Hmm.
and they are carrying it.
Hmm.
So, I mean, the acting level on this, it's just so well done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've seen a few things with Oscar saying very similar things to what you were just talking about the investment that he's putting into the character, and that he enjoyed that everybody around him, you know, wanted him to do that, you know, and talking about it. I think I saw that he is listed as an executive producer.
That would make
On
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That, you know, that's really got to be something for actors, you know, knowing and you know what, it probably really helps Marvel Studios to get the actors and not have them say, "Oh my God, you want me to be in a comic book movie?" Or you know, it's like, yeah, but look, you know, you get this freedom and this freedom and this, you know, way to you know, work your craft. That's amazing. But yeah, Oscar Isaac, you know, really impressed me. I really like him as Poe Dameron in Star Wars. You know,
Yeah.
I don't really know anything else, you know, other than that. So that, you know, I was excited when he was cast, because I said, "Oh, I like him. Yeah, I'll watch a whole TV series with him. Sure."
He did a great job as the Duke in Dune.
Oh, what? Yeah, what am I thinking of? Yeah, no, I totally, I forgot about that. Yeah, I have a very good friend who's a huge Dune fan, like I am, and we were just really enthused about that casting. You know, we said,
Yeah.
"Oh, geez, that was great,
Well, the interesting you
perfect."
were 2 points. One, you were talking about getting the actors. I think the fact that Marvel took the gamble all those years ago on Robert Downey Jr., Gwyneth Paltrow, Jeff Bridges,
Mhm.
uh, Terrence Howard, and made basically an indie film out of Iron Man,
Yes.
that it opened the door to all these other actors. And you had Robert Downey Jr. as kind of the clarion to other, you know, Chris Evans talked to him before he signed on for Captain America.
Right. Yeah.
All
Yeah. It
these
was very
actors,
interesting.
and he became kind of the shepherd to bring all these big names in. And then suddenly you get Annette Bening and Michael Douglas and Robert Redford, these huge names.
Hmm.
But the other thing is, and that Oscar Isaac, they must have really wanted him for this part, because unlike every other actor they've signed, Oscar Isaac is only committed to this series.
Oh.
And they haven't done that with any other actor that I know of. They all have multi-picture deals, multi-series deals, multi-appearances. And I think it's because there's so much negative feedback on some of the Star Wars stuff.
Yeah.
And then his experience with the X-Men movie playing Apocalypse was so negative that he was really hesitant to sign on for another comic book movie.
Right. Right.
And they probably went, "Look, you know, we're going to bend over backwards here because we want you to do this." And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think they had to bridge the difference. But it wouldn't surprise me if we hear an announcement that, oh, he's signed on to a longer contract or something. But yeah, from what I understand right now, I think it comes from Variety. He's only signed up for this series,
Hmm.
and they don't do that with anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He if I remember correctly, obviously not for stunts, but it is actually him in the Moon Knight outfit.
I believe it.
Yeah, I think I read or I saw something where he was asked how it felt. Yeah, that's right. He was being interviewed, and they said, "How did it feel to be in the costume?" And he was talking about like you put it on, and people just like look at you differently, and it's empowering. And then they said, "What did your son think of you in the outfit?" And he said, "Well, he wanted his own, and I guess his son got a little like he got him a Moon Knight outfit." Did you see that video of the premiere where people are coming down the red carpet and there's a little kid dressed up like Moon Knight? That was the most incredible thing. Oscar Isaac that was really, really cool. That kid probably was walking on air. He took a lot of time with that kid and to pose with him and to talk with him.
It's pretty much across the board, though. You get these stories of the Marvel actors,
yes,
are all so generous with their time, and friendly, and they do these things, and it just amazes me because they all seem to realize this rocket ship that they're on needs the audience as much as anything. And I know that's the way with all acting. If you don't have an audience, then you're probably going to win an Oscar, but nobody's going to see your movie.
Right. Yeah. How many times has Tom Holland gone to hospitals as Spider-Man? That's just amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Or Robert Downey Jr. does these things where he gives kids prosthetic limbs and stuff.
Yep.
It's like, yeah. So it's just that there's such good ambassadors.
Yes.
Out there.
Yes. Right. Yeah. It's not just a part that they do, for the cameras, and then it's done and over with. It actually, and that they're not looking at it as being typecast. I mean, it becomes a part of them, in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
And you going back to what you were saying about Robert Downey Jr. Yeah, that's got to be wonderful for other actors to say, well, if it was good enough for him, then I'm gonna do this. I was thinking about when I was reading that the story of Marvel Studios, there was the one actor who really I had to really work with was Evangeline Lilly. Like, I guess she really took a lot of convincing to become Hope, Van Dyne.
Yeah. I'm about halfway. I haven't started the second set of that.
I'm a little bit into the second one now.
But yeah, I finished the first one, and then I recently took up crocheting, and that's all my spare time right now.
Good for you. Yeah. That's wonderful.
Lisa got me to start on a temperature blanket where you just you pick a slate of color based on if it's in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and you do a year's worth of temperatures every day, and you do a row for each day.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, I'll do it. We'll have fun. It'll be kind of just a thing we can do together.
Yeah.
I'm about halfway through it now, and I had a net. Now they don't know it yet, but my nephew had a son. And I thought, well, I should probably make a blanket for the baby. So I did that over like 2-week period. And
you're hooked. You're hooked, pun intended.
Yep. I'm still finishing the temperature blanket, and I'm starting a third blanket that's going to be a gift for my ex-wife for her birthday.
Okay.
So
real quick, do you feel like it's is it like a relaxing thing or a Zen kind of?
It is thing, because you get into a pattern.
Yeah.
And you're just repeating that pattern.
Right.
And, there's some real simple patterns you can do with simple stitches, or there's more complicated ones. But even the more complicated ones become kind of rote memory. So I got on this kick of watching after watching Death on the Nile, I got on this Poirot kick. And I went back and I started watching all the David Suchets.
Okay.
from the beginning. I'm on season 11 now and this is all in the month of March.
Wow.
So I've been watching Poirot and just crocheting, and that's what I've been doing at night. And I'm cranking out blankets and exercising my little gray cells.
I think it should become the new like guy thing to do. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I
Good
got
for you.
it's a lot of fun, and
Good.
it is really neat to suddenly, you start off and you get this just like a stream of yarn, and then suddenly you've got like this actual blanket, and it's like, holy,
Yep. I did this.
yeah, it's kind of neat. So,
Good.
and like I said, it's very relaxing. So, yeah, another diversion. Speaking of Poirot, for anybody who's a regular watching the show, we did an episode about 3 weeks ago, and I went on a tirade about an Amazon Prime adaptation of a Agatha Christie Poirot called The ABC Murders that they did about 2 years ago with John Malkovich as Poirot. And it is by far the worst adaptation I have ever seen.
Is that right?
They changed so many things about the character, his backstory. None of it was necessary. And I went on so negatively about it that Paul's like, I have to watch it now. I'm like, why would you want to watch it? He says, because you've established that it's so bad that now I have to see how bad it is.
Yeah.
So last night I get a message from Paul, and he says, I'm watching the ABC Murders. Curse you. You were so right about a weird accent or sometimes non-accent. And all the clever changes just seem so pointless.
Oh boy, that's funny. Yeah, he had to prove to himself that it was as bad as you said it was.
Yeah. It is so bad. And the thing was, I had watched the David Suchet adaptation of it.
Yeah,
which was really well done.
Yeah,
and
I've seen Peter Ustinov in the part, but maybe once or twice I've seen Peter Suchet. Is that how?
David Suchet, yeah.
Yeah, David, yeah. Very interesting.
All of the David Suchet ones are on YouTube.
Okay.
Somebody has them uploaded. I've been watching them.
Okay.
I tried to watch Death on the Peter Ustinov Death on the Nile last night because I haven't seen it since it originally aired.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like 7 or 8 when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
But I was reading Agatha Christie at that age. So I was like, oh my God, Agatha,
Wow.
And I watched the opening of it, and it was just so cringy. I mean, you get David Niven, you've got Jack Warden doing a German, Russian, Slavic accent of some sort. You have Angela Lansbury playing a drunk.
Right.
And then you've got Peter Ustinov doing his thing. And it's like, oh, this just hurts to watch. So this afternoon before the show, I was rewatching the new Kenneth Branagh one.
Yeah.
It's because it's popped up on HBO Max now. And I saw it in the theater, and that's what started all this. I'm a huge murder mystery fan.
Mm-hmm.
So, Knives Out, Agatha Christie.
I don't know if I feel like maybe this has come up between us before. Are you a Nero Wolfe fan?
Oh my God, yes.
Okay, because I'm a huge Nero Wolfe fan now, and I actually like the A&E productions.
I have watched probably every episode at least 5 times.
Okay.
Yeah.
In fact, that's how I got onto Nero Wolfe, is I saw those before I read a book, and then I started in and read the entire canon.
The A&E Nero Wolfe series was sort of the inspiration for my Lucius Fogg novels.
Okay.
Because they're supernatural, but Lucius is kind of a Nero Wolfe in that he can't leave his house. Not he doesn't, but he can't.
Right.
And it's all told through his assistant, Jimmy Doyle.
Yeah, well, that sounds kind of Nero Wolfe.
I did borrow that setup. But when you sit down to write a murder mystery or you're doing a detective series, you do kind of borrow from the archetypes. You either do the Sherlock Holmes and Watson,
Mm-hmm.
you do the Nero Wolfe and Archie,
Mm-hmm.
you can do the Sam Spade, you can
Mm-hmm.
do the Miss Marple. You know, they all have that archetype that you borrow from, and
Sure,
then you
sure.
do your story and take it from there. But the connection setup is pretty standard. And yeah, I'll even when I get try to get the voice of my narrator Jimmy Doyle, I kind of run Archie through my head a little bit because I want that 1950s because that's when it's set.
Yeah, yeah,
So
right, right.
yeah,
Love
so
it.
yeah, no, I'm a huge Nero Wolfe fan and Sherlock Holmes. So Arthur Conan Doyle, Rex Stout, Agatha Christie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm in for all of that, and I'm about to actually try to write my own murder mystery. I finally decided I'm going to sit down and do not urban fantasy, no
Good,
supernatural, just a straightforward
good
murder,
luck.
who done it, and I've got my twist already. Now I'm just building around it.
Good luck. Yeah, I haven't attempted it myself, but well, good luck with that.
Yeah, I've run my twist by a couple people, including Salome Jones, who edits all my books, and she's like, "Okay, you need to write that." It's
You
like,
got to do it now.
"Yep." So, all right, let's get back on the Moon Knight a little bit. What did you think of the chase scene?
When the show first began, the thing about the glass in the shoes, I'm setting that aside for a moment. I honestly felt like when it began and we got into Steven and everything that it was going to be that it was almost too comedic. By the end of the episode, I didn't feel that way at all. But interestingly enough, the chase is pretty comedic, you know, but but as they will do, as Marvel Studios will do, they made it work.
I think it's comedic because all we get is his reactions.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about it from his point of view, how terrifying it would be.
Sure, sure. But that road that they're on, that stereotypical winding thing as it goes down. I mean, okay, we are watching a show about a guy who's getting his powers from an Egyptian deity, and I get that or whatever, but it was stretching it a little bit that how terrified he is. He is suddenly how far from home. He doesn't know what the hell's going on. He got in this truck and he's being chased by people shooting at him or whatever, but he still manages to stay on that winding road. It was sort of with the help of Mark, I guess.
Yeah, I think he's pulling from Mark's abilities
It
without
must
knowing
be.
it.
Yeah, I guess so.
So the driving is something in the realm that he thinks might be able to do, even though he doesn't have a license.
Yeah,
But
right.
like fighting or shooting are things. So that's why he's just nothing. But
Right.
then he even tries to fight the guy and hit him with a cupcake.
Yeah, I was and extra points to Marvel Studios for coming up with the poster with the cupcake on, as if it's a character.
Yes, yes.
I got a big kick out of that.
Also, extra points for the song "Wake Me Up."
Yes. And what's funny is the very next day I go into work and on our music that's playing, that came on. And I ran up to the only other person that I work with who watches those shows, and I said, he was in the back, and I'm like, you gotta come out here and listen to what song is on. And we got a good chuckle out of that. Because I don't really like that song. but now I love it.
Going on to a side note, I do like the musical choices because the meaning of the songs are all so tied into the story.
Yep.
Wake Me Up, the whole Engelbert Humperdinck song. of being so lonely because there's no one, you have no love,
Oh yeah.
and then
Oh, I was singing that again the whole next day. Like I'm singing that song, and I'm walking around going, "Damn them! They're making me sing Engelbert Humperdinck of all things." Music has become this extra layer of story in Marvel Studios productions. I mean, I sometimes look forward to that, more than other aspects of these things. Like what, I mean, it's really started with Guardians of the Galaxy, for the most part, but
for the most part,
huh?
I think AC/DC and Black Sabbath.
Yeah, yes. I would say it was hammered home, or it really became a thing. The use of the songs and music in Guardians of the Galaxy to the point, like, now you really look forward to what they're going to use, what they're going to pull out. My God, in both Infinity War and in Endgame, the use of music is just wonderful in that. I cannot listen to Rubber Band Man now without seeing that entire opening with the Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, it has forever changed that song.
Or the song, I don't remember the name of the song, but when in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and they've got that moment with Yondu gets his fin back, and he takes out all the Ravagers, and that song is playing as the Yaka arrow is going around.
Yeah, and now I can't think of what that is. But yes, I know what you mean. But yeah, I can't think of what that is now.
They started doing it a little bit, and then James Gunn came in and went, "No, we should do it like this." And now everybody is. And I think it's another thing that Marvel is really good at.
Very much so.
Yeah, and it also revitalizes so many of these bands and stuff.
I know, right? They're probably all praying, like, oh, if only I could get my one-hit wonder song, in one of these Marvel movies. It would just be fantastic.
How many 20 and 30-year-olds suddenly have Engelbert Humperdinch on their Spotify list now?
Right? Yeah, I mean, all that Guardians of the Galaxy, music. Well, they got me. Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, and Cherry Bomb. And some of my friends that I used to go to all the Marvel movies with, they're in their 20s and 30s, and here's me, and I'm going like, hey, I kind of like that one song, Cherry Bomb, and they're like, well, yeah. They're like, yeah, that's Cherry Bomb. I'm like, okay, well, I didn't really know that song, but I love it now.
When I was back in the 1990s, I was first getting into comics, and I was publishing, and there was a band I was listening to over and over again. It was a band called Hardline, and it was two of the guys from Neil Schon from Journey,
right,
and Jonathan Cain were in it,
okay,
and then a few other people. And one of their songs that was in the Brandon Lee movie, Rapid Fire. I think that was the name of it. Brandon Lee was in a movie with Powers Booth.
Mm-hmm.
But that song stuck in my head, and Hot Sherry, and just, so in my mind, and I named my publishing company Hardline Studios.
Okay.
So that's always been in the back of my mind. When I hear that song, it just kind of brings back great memories.
Love it.
James Gunn dropped that into Peacemaker.
Oh, did he? Okay. Yeah.
So I'm in the middle.
I only watched the first episode of Peacemaker, so I'm not sure.
If you didn't like the first episode,
Mm-mm.
try to consider.
Okay.
I hated the first episode.
I did too.
Started to like the second episode, fell in love with the series by the third episode. But the first episode, and I will tell people that if you're going to watch it, the first episode is hard to watch. It is painful, but they have to set up that relationship between him and his dad.
Yeah.
And they have to bring him to this low level.
Mhm.
But from that point forward, it becomes
It's pretty low.
But yeah, that is it is such a painful first episode.
Yeah,
But
it is.
but everybody I know who've watched it after the first episode
Yeah.
have loved it. But I know a lot of people who bailed after the first.
And I liked the movie, the Suicide Squad movie, and that's why I thought, I'll give this a try. And I know it was going to be, kind of hard edge, and
Yeah.
I thought, basically, this was them saying, how many times has the F-bomb been dropped in a single film production? Figure that out, and then we're going to like go 10 to 100 times past that. I mean, to me, that's like what that was. But okay, well, that's very interesting. I'll take that into consideration.
Yeah. A big part of episode 2 is him just trying to get out of an apartment building.
Okay.
And it is you watch him possibly hurt himself so bad in having such bad luck getting out of this apartment building that you get just hooked. And then, like I said, the third episode is the one that just completely reels you in.
Okay. All right. Point taken.
But yeah, I hated that first episode so bad. All right. So Jim, what are you working on? What have you got? What's come out recently since we last saw you?
I completed the third book of my my 66 Batman trilogy of books, and it's called I have to get this right, Oof Boff Splat, and covers the third season of the Batman. So I finally finished that trilogy. I'm very proud of that, and I'm literally today I got what I'm hoping might be the final draft of. I'm doing a nonfiction book about Dark Shadows, in honor of my late wife, who was a huge Dark Shadows fan, and it's essays by people who as children watched Dark Shadows and ran home from school to watch it. Everybody in it, you couldn't get into the book unless you were a kid during that 66 to 71 run of the show.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that. That's called Running Home to Shadows, and it could very well be out in the next week or so. So
Cool.
yeah, and I just wrote an official Zorro short story. I'm thinking, like, what have I been doing recently? So another bucket list character.
Who's
So
publishing
about
Zorro
that.
now?
I'm sorry.
Who's publishing Zorro now?
Bold Venture Press. Not only have they done the reprints of all the Johnston McCulley original Zorro stories, but they had one anthology of original stories, and they're doing a second one now. And I was invited to be in it, and what an honor and a thrill. In fact, like literally as we're talking, my story has been submitted to Zorro's owners. I think it's like Zorro Productions Incorporated or whatever it is for approval. I this summer or in the fall, I'm not sure when the anthology comes out, but that was the latest fiction thing that I've worked on.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Glad to hear that, man. Yeah, Zorro's another great pulp character, and I love when they do these anthologies like the Green Hornet ones or the Phantom and stuff like that. And I love getting to work on some of those. So I'm a little jealous, a little envious. Zorro would have been a lot of fun.
They'll do more. I'll give you a good word.
I would appreciate that.
Hey, you know what? I should ask you whatever happened to the prose novel series for Dynamite? Is it Dynamite? Whatever happened to that series?
We are talking about bringing it back when the pandemic hit. There was a lot of shuffling around. So we put out a handful of books. We put out a Purgatory, like 2 Vampirellas.
Yeah.
They have their military fiction, the SEAL Team 6 books.
Yeah.
And we put out, I got to write an adaptation of the first Boys trade paperback.
Wow.
We got all that out there. And then the pandemic hit. and a lot of things slowed down.
Okay, I kind of figured that might be it, because I was every once in a while I think about that, because that was how we know each other. I contacted you about that, and then it's like I don't think anything else had really come out. I guessed it was probably because of the pandemic.
Yeah, we slowed down on that, but we're recently talking about maybe there's something we can do, a different kind of format to get it back out there. So, Nick hit me up and said, "Hey, is this possible?" And we need a website. So I've kind of designed the website and passed it on to the actual programmers. Yeah, my years of programming are way behind me now.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm actually going to reach out this week to see where that's moving. And
Okay, well, I'll look forward to hearing more about that. Wonderful.
me too. I'm itching to write again. That's why the murder mystery thing's coming up. I got a bunch of comic ideas.
Yeah.
So, all right, we need to wrap it up here. Thank you, Jim, for joining us.
Thank you for having me back.
But for being part of our new Marvel series to keep that tradition alive.
Yeah, so, I'll look forward to doing Ms. Marvel.
Yeah. That's let's see, June 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. So keep June 12th available.
Okay, you got it.
All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in. We will be back next week. Paul will be back, and we will talk more Moon Knight next week. And you can find out what Paul thinks of Moon Knight, and also just how really bad the ABC Murders with John Malkovich is. So, good night, everybody. Have a good week.